Hello Internet, so nice to see you. So the other day I was watching a famous YouTuber talking about music theory, and at a certain point he says that in jazz you can follow a dissonant chord with another dissonant chord, as opposed to classical music where after every dissonant chord you need to put a consonant chord. And I'm like, what? This is absolutely not true. Now, I'm not gonna say the name of this famous YouTuber, first of all because I don't like flame wars, second I don't like being polemic, and especially third, I am a creator myself, and I know that when you make a video, occasionally you may misspoke or put in a sentence or two that then in the video seem to get different meanings. So, and I'm pretty sure he actually meant something different, but I mean, the phrase is there, it stands now. So I thought, hey, how about I make an example of a chord progression where you have a dissonant chord and they resolve into more dissonant chords, okay? Because it sounds great in my opinion. So just as a counter example, so when people tell you that classical music it's all about consonance or that you have always to come back to consonance, well, maybe by the end of the piece it was their aesthetic to come back to a very consonant chord, but while the piece is going, you can resolve a dissonant chord into another dissonant chord and then into another dissonant chord and so on and so forth, seemingly for as long as you want. So I'm gonna show you this chord progression. I'm gonna just explain what's going on. I'm not gonna go too in depth on the technical why, but I'm gonna show you that it's a chord progression made of dissonant chords. Let's play it in the key of G major, and we start, of course, with a consonant chord, which is just G major. That's a plain old G major chord, nothing strange here. My next chord is going to be dissonant, and it's going to be an A minor 7th with a bass of G. And it's dissonant because, first of all, it's a 7th chord, and in classical music, 7th chords are dissonant. The 7th requires a resolution, and also because it's in a strange inversion, the 7th is at the bass. A way to resolve 7th chords is to move them along the circle of 5ths. So on A minor 7, if I move along the circle of 5th, I'm going to have a D7th chord. If I play a D7th chord and I try to make every single voice move as little as possible, what happens is this. The A minor 7th chord has the notes A, C, E, G. The D7th chord, which is the next chord in the circle of 5th while we are still in the key of G, has the notes D, F sharp, A and C, so A and C are in common, and the other two notes just require a stepwise movement. So from here, I'm just going here. This chord is dissonant too, again because 7th chords are dissonant in classical music, and it's not in root position either. It's in first inversion, the 3rd is at the bass. Let's keep following along the circle of 5th, and let's keep playing the 7th chords in the key of G. The next chord will be G major 7, and again, I have two notes in common and two notes that I need to move stepwise, and I go here. And again, this chord is dissonant. It's actually very dissonant. If I was playing this chord without having played everything else before, this chord will sound positively horrible because the 7th is at the bass. But since you have in your ear the previous chords in the progression, this chord now sounds perfectly acceptable and even mild. This is kinda one of the magic things about music theory. The way you perceive a chord depends a lot on what comes before and what comes after that chord. And if you scramble the order, everything sounds more dissonant, and there are orders to make things more dissonant in interesting way and more consonant too in interesting ways. Again, all the chords I'm playing right now, except for the first chord, the G major, all the others are dissonant chord, and yet they don't sound that dissonant. Maybe that's what gives the impression that in classical music we always end up on a consonant chord, but it's actually not true. Incidentally, this chord progression that I'm showing you right now has been in use from the Baroque era, so hey, I'm pretty old, it's like 300 years old. And the idea is that at this point I just keep going with the circle of 5th, and this happens essentially. Let's start from the beginning. at this point, I think we had enough of this chord progression, and then I would just put standard cadence, where I put the first chord in first inversion, and then the second chord, then the fifth, and then the first, all in root position. So at this point, yes, when I want to close the piece, then I have to go to a consonant chord, but everything else, all the chords before, are dissonant. So, yeah, it's not true that in classical music a dissonant chord must be followed by a consonant chord. What the famous YouTuber probably meant is that you have to resolve your dissonances, which, yes, it's exactly what's happening here. The dissonance in every single chord will be the seventh in the chord. And if you notice, every time we move along this chord progression, the seventh in the chord moves down a step in the scale. So when I have this A minor seventh with a bass of G, the seventh in the chord is the G note, and which moves down to an F sharp in the next chord, which is a D seventh, so the F sharp is the third, and so this takes the dissonant note, the seventh, moving down to a consonant note in the chord, which is the third. Now when I'm here, at the dissonant note will be the seventh in this D7, which is the C note, but when I play the next chord, this C note moves down to a B note, which is the third of the next chord. So the seventh always moves down by step and always goes to the third in the next chord. And these, yes, these dissonances resolve, but the chord per se does not need to be consonant. The chord could be fairly dissonant, could be even more dissonant than that, depending on the exact era of classical music you're thinking about. In the Romantic era, we go even more dissonant, but I wanted to show you something that has been there literally forever, essentially. One of the oldest chord progressions that we have that has this feature of always landing on a dissonant chord. If you guys were able to follow this, again, this is not a beginner video, it has a few not advanced, but at least intermediate concepts to understand. Of course, everybody can play it even if you don't understand, but if you want to understand what's going on, it requires a bit more knowledge of music theory. Whether you do have this knowledge or not, I can help you by clarifying all those tricks and all those connections and doing everything from the basics so that you understand what is the logic behind those chords and those progressions and how they connect together. And the same logic works for classical music and for jazz and for several other kinds of music. And if you want to know more about that, I would recommend you guys check out my course, Complete Chord Mastery. Complete Chord Mastery, it's not a book. It's a complete video course that takes you from the basics up. We do everything you need to know about harmony and chords on your guitar. All the theory is done straight on the fretboard. There is no theory for the sake of theory here. Everything is immediately practical and everything is developed through exercises so you know how to apply these immediately on your guitar. If you have just a minute, click on the link on the top right to check out Complete Chord Mastery. If you like this video, smash on that like button and don't forget to subscribe and click on notification, otherwise YouTube will not let you know when I put up a new video. And if you have any comment, feedback, suggestions, write them down in the comment. I enjoy reading from you and I make videos on your suggestions. This is Tommaso Zilio of musictheoryforguitar.com, and until next time, enjoy!